I'm so appreciative for you sharing this moment with us on the Jamal Bryant Let's Be Clear podcast. Today is a very important and a significant day for me and for our community. The voice for the voiceless, Adam Clayton Powell, was called the lion in the lobby. This is, in fact, a panther in the jungle. Reverend Al Sharpton needs no introduction. We know him, we appreciate him, we respect him. Rev, I'm glad to have you with us.
I'm very glad to be, always glad to be with you, but certainly glad to be on your podcast.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, my dad just turned 81, my mother is 76, and we are seeing, because of strides in health and in medicine and advancements, a whole lot of people now having to operate as caregivers. This is the oldest America has ever been. We now, Reverend Sharpton, have more senior centers than middle schools. And I want to ask you, how has it been for you watching the aging of your mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson?
It's been difficult because, I first met Reverend Jackson when I was 12 years old. So I knew he was 26. And the funny side is he used to call me like his son. As we both got older, he was like, just say I'm your big brother. Because it wasn't, when I was 50, he was 63, 64. That wasn't that son thing he didn't want to do. Right. But he was always athletic.
Yes.
And certainly one of the greatest orators of his time. And to see him, in fact, I saw him about 2 weeks ago right in this hotel. He came up. And in a wheelchair, and his speech is difficult.
Yeah.
But then it also it makes me feel more obligated that the few of us that grew up under him have an obligation to keep the struggle going. His son is here at the convention, Jesse Jr., and we talk about that maybe God let us, for such a young age, Junior, of course, born there, see him, because God knew then you're going to have to keep this going.
Yeah. Tell me what that makes you feel with that, having the two oldest people in American history run for president.
It is scary because you don't know what will happen health-wise or mental-wise. But it's also challenging because sometimes age is wisdom. And you have two of the oldest guys that ever ran for president that represent polar opposites. One balanced, one whose temperament seems he's in control. The other is volatile, given the whims, showing the worst in being senior. The good news for me, though, is I'm not even 70 yet, so they give me a lot more. They give me a lot more runway to go. People can't say that you get too old when you got an 81-year-old president.
Yeah, you got time. Just recently, President Trump was in Atlanta. And it went viral. A young lady from Clark Atlanta University steps up in a Chick-fil-A and says, I don't care what the media is saying. A lot of black people are with you. Hearing that, what did that make you feel?
I mean, the question becomes with him, why? When he was never with us.
Wow.
Donald Trump comes from New York, as I do.
Right.
And Donald Trump and his father, in the 70s, was sued by the Justice Department for discrimination in their buildings. He wouldn't let blacks rent in their houses in the 70s.
Wow.
And we marched with him in the 80s. And then Don King and him started doing fights together. Don kind of tried to cool all of us out. We were friendly with Don. Trump, who became a Democrat, gave to some of the black candidates. So we kind of like gave him a second chance. Then when they came and arrested these 5 boys in Central Park, black young men, accused them of raping a white woman and beating her, and indicted them, coerced confessions. We marched in support of the guys. Donald Trump took out ads calling for them to get the death penalty.
Let me interject. One of them is now on the city council.
What was with us last night?
Yeah.
Yusef Salam.
Yes.
One is Kerry Weiss, who's at our Saturday morning rallies. I do Saturday morning rallies that Reverend Jackson started in Chicago. I do it in Harlem. And the irony is, I said this, Pastor Bryant, on Saturday, last Saturday's rally. The irony is, when we marched to free the Central Park 5, and they castigated us. They called us everything you could think of. We're supporting rapists. We're supporting people that should be in jail. The irony is that on Monday, that the same criminal court building that we had to march for the Central Park 5, they'll be starting the trial of Donald Trump, wanted them killed. Same building.
Wow.
And I told them young men that if you ever see the hand of God, who would have ever thought that this man have already been fingerprinted and mugshot in the building he told them to take you to the death chamber.
The strange parallel is while America has the oldest presidents running, Senegal just elected the youngest president on the continent of Africa, 43 years of age. Second to China, Africa now has the youngest population. Do you think that that's going to start a wave of revolutionary thought for young Black Americans to get back involved?
I would hope it does, because I think that seeing this youngster, 43, take Senegal, they're young guys in South Africa. And Africa, we talk about a lot, and rightfully so, what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Ukraine. But nobody's talking about what's going on in Africa. Right now in the Sudan, people are being killed, slaughtered.
Yeah.
And I said a lot about, I've always been for a two-state solution with Palestine and Israel, but I said a lot of my Palestinian friends, but I don't hear you challenging the Arab world about what they're doing in the Sudan.
Wow.
We cannot be I'm not looking for better slave masters. I'm looking for freedom. Right. So I'm not looking to be told by Israel or the Palestinians what to do. I'm looking to stand up for those that are innocent, that are being killed in Gaza, but also that are being killed in the Sudan, in Niger, and other places. So we need young leadership to emerge in not only Africa, but in the African-American community, because those of us now that are getting older, we are always challenged past the baton, and we must.
Yes.
But you cannot pass the baton to people that you know are not ready to run the race.
No, not with Vaseline on their hands.
That's right.
I want to ask you, in 50 years of hip-hop, you really emerged as a voice and as a leader of the hip-hop movement in sweatsuits and gold chains and Adidas. I saw Reverend Run last night.
Yeah. We all grew up together. Run, Russell Simmons, Spike Lee on the cinema. Because all of us is from Brooklyn or Queens, so we known each other for years. We all the same kind of circle.
When you were emerging and leading causes here in New York, dealing with injustice, there was a soundtrack that matched it. Whether you're dealing with Public Enemy, dealing with the collective voice of self-destruction. Are you hearing anything now in hip-hop music that
the thing that is most disturbing, and you were, like, I was 13 years younger than Reverend Jackson. You were the guy younger than our crowd, me and Spike and their crowd. And so we were marching, we were rallying. Fight the Power was the soundtrack, and Spike was doing it in movies, and all. I, for the life of me, don't understand how we go from Fight the Power and Tupac, who I knew and went visited him in jail, to now we just nigga whole B. I mean, when did we reverse trying to match our situation with uplifting or inspiring our people? There's too much. We always had people that would tell, crazy stuff, but now it's dominant. It's almost like those that control the industry, which are white, use some artists to poison our youngsters and poison some of our older people without even our putting them in check. Wow. And these are the ones Donald Trump related to in part.
Yeah.
And he can pardon one or two rappers, but he'll cut health care, cut Social Security, cut women's right to choose.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why I say, when was he on our side? Explain to me when he was on our side. Biden has things that I've questioned. I marched on Biden in the 90s when he and Clinton came with the crime bill. But Biden has done concrete things, and it said that the crime bill did go too far. He was Barack Obama's vice president. I sat in the room 100 times with Biden as vice president. He pushed Obama on some of the stuff we wanted. I've never heard, in the years I've been out here, 50 years, I've never heard Donald Trump stand up for one killing in New York. Not one.
Wow.
Not one.
Wow.
So you can call for the death penalty, but you can't stand up one time. I don't care how brutal it was.
Yes.
We never heard for Donald Trump stand up for black folks. So it's like, why are you chasing somebody that's not chasing you?
Wow.
He's not standing up for you. He's taking you for granted. Blacks like me cause them a mugshot. I'm going to sell a Bible. When have you heard him stand up and say, I'm standing up for the rights of black?
Yeah.
And I think that you've got to have an insult level where you can say, wait a minute now, at least if I'm going somewhere, I'm going because they invited me to come, not taken for granted.
I want you, when Dr. King went to Chicago, he reported he'd never seen that level of brutality and hostility and anger while he was there, more than in Selma or Montgomery. There's a divide, Rev, that I need you to speak to because you've been right on the forefront, and our Attorney General, Ben Crump, dealing with criminal injustice, mass incarceration. In Atlanta, where I'm living, I'm hearing a catchword that is disconnected that says the new civil rights, silver rights. Is that all it is that we need to be fighting for is economic parity, and the rest will just come after it?
You know, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and most of the guys that I was mentored by, Jesse Jackson, James Bevel, Wyatt T. Walker was first chairman of the board of National Action, all of them were Southern. So when I started, as you said, in the tracksuit, or started to become known, it was explained, I'm in a different terrain. You know, in New York, in Brooklyn, you could not just call a church rally and mobilize the community. You had to get out there and dramatize. I'm in New York. That's why they did that documentary on me, Loudmouth. I'm in New York. You had to be loud. You had to be theatrical to get attention. I'm competing with Broadway plays and lights that never go out, and Statue of Liberty, Empire State. You could be nothing down south.
Right.
And so we had an urban kind of persona because that's who we were.
Yeah.
And that's who the police were. So a lot of them, when we started fighting police brutality, that was an issue they didn't see. But what they didn't understand, you could be an upper-class black and a cop still treat you the same way, which ended up happening.
Yeah.
So how do you talk about civil rights, no civil rights, civil rights? Well, first of all, we need civil rights and civil rights.
Yeah.
But like some of my friends used to be in the more nationalist community, no, we don't need civil rights, we need human rights. I said, if somebody landed here from China, they got human rights, but they don't have civil rights. They can't vote. You need both.
Right.
Why do we only have to have one?
Right.
You want civil rights, which is economic empowerment. What? But we still need civil rights.
Yeah.
Because just because you got $1 billion and if they just took Section 15 out of the Voting Rights Act, you can't vote with your $1 billion.
Wow.
So when you think you're saying something slick, you're showing how ignorant you are, how society is dealing. They decide voting and other processes through the civil setting of a country. You can have all the money you want. They had rich blacks when they had to sit in the back of the bus.
Yeah.
So let's not confuse that we want all of our rights. We'd have to choose between rights. When have you heard white folks say that we only need to have one right?
Never. Never. We were in Minneapolis together, a memory that's really going to stay with me for as long as I live. I'm standing right beside you and Reverend Jackson when the verdict comes in around George Floyd.
That's right.
We left out of there, and within 72 hours, $500 million in pledges came in from Fortune 500 corporations, making a commitment around diversity and equity and inclusion. We are now not even 5 years later, and we're seeing it being dismantled. But what nobody is talking about, they're dismantling it while the companies never lived up to the pledge. What do you say to those companies that made the commitment?
Those companies need to be targeted. And the few companies that did something did not give to the movements that was really fighting for justice for George Floyd. They gave to some groups and then turned around and scandalized some of the groups and withdrew. And now they're saying we're taking back DEI, where they never really went with DEI.
Right.
And DEI is only outgrowth of affirmative action. This is all done by Stephen Miller, Trump's advisor.
Yeah.
For all of those who are talking about they're going with Trump. It is clear that we need to, and that's one of the things we're talking about in National Action Network's convention, is we need to target some of those companies saying, fine, if you're going to withdraw your pledge, we need to withdraw our consumer dollar.
No, that's critical. I took our team who's in the room with us today through Harlem this afternoon, went through the Schomburg Museum, went to the Apollo, went to Melba's for lunch. Every place that we went, people were asking, why are you here? I said, we're here for National Action Network. I was amazed and dizzied in every place we went. The proprietors and the customers all chimed in unison, we're with Rev. We support whatever Rev is doing. I want to really hammer that in because I don't see many preachers now with street credibility. They're safe in the sanctuary, but they can't go 6 blocks away from it. What has happened that you have been able to keep your mantle as a prophet, as a man of God, but people who don't go to church respect the God?
Well, you see, one of the things, and it goes back to where you started our conversation today, is God puts you on the path you're supposed to go on. When I was a boy preacher, I started in Church of God in Christ, preached my first sermon when I was 4 years old, ordained when I was 10. And when I was 12, my parents had broke up, a traumatic separation. And I used to watch the news a lot because a lot of kids my age didn't want to pray with a boy preacher because their parents would go to work, go to church rather on Sunday, and they couldn't cuss and carry on. They felt around me. And I became totally just mesmerized by Adam Clayton Powell.
Yeah.
And I convinced my mother to let my sister, who was 3 years older than me, bring me to Harlem. I wanted to see Adam Clayton Powell. And to my surprise, he knew who I was because he knew my pastor and he'd heard me preach on the broadcast. After Adam kind of faded, Bill Jones, my pastor, asked him, Reverend William Augustus Jones, what can we do with Al? He said, we'll make him our youth director of Operation Breadbasket, New York chapter. I was 13 years old, introduced me to Jesse. For whatever reasons, and I've never talked about this in public, for whatever reasons, I'm around Dr. William Jones, Dr. Gardner Taylor. They all lived on the same block.
Wow.
Bishop F.D. Washington, Reverend Sandy Ray, all lived on President Street.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
We used to call it Preacher's Row. And I'm around them playing with their kids because I'm their kids' age. But for whatever reason, I said, I want to be like that guy, Jesse Jackson, who never pastored the church and who had Saturday meetings so that he didn't compete with the churches.
Right.
So that was kind of my model.
Yeah.
And because of that, people never saw me like they saw others because I was the guy that would rally on Saturday and then say, now let's leave the rally and go march on a store and do this, that, or the other. That's a track God brought me on. Yeah. Just like you. I mean, you grew up and where you are now in your ministry, which is unparalleled, because I know your whole generation that came behind me, look at where you are. Well, you were trained that way. God trains and raises people in the way they should go. Now, if you decide your own track, you're on your own.
Right.
And I think that is no way I could consciously say why I had street cred other than to say this is the route I went, the path I went, and maybe the credibility came out of my being obedient and because I never left the streets. When I started, it'll be 13 years ago this August, my MSNBC show is all
13 years.
13 years. People say I wouldn't last 6 weeks. I've been on 13 years.
Wow.
August 31st. When I started, people said, well, I bet you ain't going to be at the Saturday rally in Harlem no more. I've not ever been. I might miss 3 Saturdays a year. Because,
wow,
I'm there every Saturday morning. Wow. Main message every Saturday morning. My radio show I do 5 days a week, black radio. Nothing changed. I added that.
Right.
Because I wasn't called by MSNBC.
Yeah.
I was called by God to do this work on the ground. I'm going to be on the ground till they put me in the ground.
No, that's incredible. I wanted to ask you, at this stage of your life when you are now looking at legacy, what would you want to be the key thing that is remembered about your sacrifice?
That I made a difference, that at a time that civil rights seemed like it was no longer fashionable,
yeah,
that I was able to get people mobilized to stand up and protest and march and set a climate. Merrick Adams, you heard him at the dinner talk, where he came out of our organization. Hakeem Jeffrey was a member. My job is to set the climate. There's difference between climate setters, thermometers, and thermostats. I was one in a time that they felt that the climate was never go back there, that kept bringing it back.
Yeah.
And did my part in that and continued that tradition of fighting and did my part in that. We're all just a link on a long chain. It's not about us. I want to be a strong link from the King movement of direct action, social justice.
You really cut your teeth in doing youth work and youth activism long before we got here. When the first times you were in the newspapers because you did an awards banquet. How old were you when you did that?
I was 16.
16 years old, and you giving out awards to other people.
Right.
Pollsters are very nervous about November because the data that is coming back say that this may be the smallest turnout of young people going to vote. What would you say to young people who are watching saying my vote doesn't matter anymore? I don't see any real merits in American democracy. Why even participate?
I think that you vote your interest. And if I'm a young person today, I got one guy that did do student debt loan. The other guy's Supreme Court that he put 3 members on stopped it. And the guy still found student debt loan. That don't help nobody but young people. Old folk don't go to school asking for college loan. I got one guy that said, let's change how we deal with the whole question of infrastructure and create jobs for young people that are in construction and all. I got another guy that didn't do any of that. So, compare guys and don't vote for Biden or Trump. Vote for yourself. Who's in your interest? People talk about, I don't know about Biden, but do you know about you?
Right.
And you get the best one for you.
Yeah.
And that's just being intelligent. I think Biden is better for me than Trump.
Yes.
And when I go in that booth to vote, I'm voting for me and my daughters and my grandson. I only have one grandchild. I'm not voting for Biden. I'm voting for me. There's still a lot wrong with Biden, but it's a lot more in my interest than somebody that would tell me a pandemic is not happening and I can use bleach when it does.
Oh, yeah, well, that part is absolutely critical. As things are evolving and shifting, I went to the gala you held for National Action Network, the opening night, and something really spoke to me. You honored a woman who is leading nationally women's right to choose about their own bodies. And I thought it was significant because mostly in mainstream media, males are telling women what they can't do. But you're not hearing a lot of voices of women having the right to choose for themselves. What made you jump out in that issue?
I knew that it was a statement that needed to be had, and needed to be made. As you know, the majority of the board of National Action Network, national board, is made up of ministers. So it was not a thing that I thought was going to be easy to get by the board, that I wanted to honor Alexis McGill Johnson, who I've known many years, who heads Planned Parenthood. But my argument to the board, which they agreed, is we're not saying we're endorsing what somebody decides. We're saying that it's up to them to make the decision.
That's right.
And I said, go through the Bible. God always gave you a choice of heaven and hell. So now we're going to legislate that you must go to heaven if that's what we feel about abortion. You convert people. You don't make them do that and call that doing God's work. Right. Jesus didn't do that. Yeah. And I think our job is to give clear choices, but not to eliminate the choice.
You have always been an independent thinker and out-of-the-box leader. But with as critical the times are, do you think it is dangerous for Cornel West and Kennedy to be in the race when the polls are so tight? What effect do you think that's going to have, if any?
I think that the first question I ask is, what is the strategy? I ran in 2004. Reverend Jackson ran in 84 and 88. And Shirley ran in 72. I was involved in all three campaigns. Well, three people. It was always a strategy. Shirley Chisholm wanted to raise the issue of race and politics and be in the Democratic primary debates and set a tone. Reverend Jackson leveraged it, changed the rules of the Democratic Party, made history, and was in the debate, moved it forward. I did the debates, got them to deal with, I was the first one against the war in Iraq on the debates, made them deal with racial profiling. We all were in the Democratic debates. Well, Robert Kennedy and Cornel and them will not be in any debates because they're not in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
So what's the point here? You don't think you're going to be president. So explain to me what the end goal is. So I'm not denouncing either one of them. I'm asking the question, we're doing this for what? Right. If you know you're not going to win, I knew I wasn't going to win, but I knew I could change the debate.
And raise policy.
You can't change a debate you're not in. So explain to me what this is all about.
No, that's critical and it's heavy. Cornel just announced his running mate. So it'd be the very first time in American history you have black people on both sides of the ticket. But our place at this ticket to watch is not symbolism, but what is substance.
But see, a lot of that, and Cornel's a year too old than me, a lot of that is good symbolism, maybe when Dick Gregory did it when I was a kid. But we've had a black president now, and we've got a black woman vice president now. So symbolism doesn't replace substance. We got a black woman right now.
Yeah.
That's the vice president.
Yeah.
So we don't need that. And you know, the Negro League was good till Jackie Robinson showed them how to play Major League. We're in the Major Leagues now.
Yes. No, that's incredible. To that end, I want to close by talking about the miracle in South Carolina, which is really the epicenter, the heartbeat of black culture in so many ways. For the young ladies to be undefeated, for their coach to make history, having 3 rings. What message is that to our young ladies?
It tells our young ladies that if you're disciplined, consistent, and keep believing, you can do what they claim you'll never do. You can't beat these people.
Yeah.
And even though it took nothing from Caitlin making her record, it could show that you can shine, but you can't turn down the shine on me. It was inspiring, to say the least. And these young ladies were coached into believing in themselves.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it is so important to have somebody in your life coming up that'll coach you into being who you could be rather than beat you down on who you can't be.
Wow. I watched a documentary on Clive Davis the other night and was amazed. He has no background in music. He can't play an instrument, can't sing, doesn't know how to produce, but he knows the sound.
That's right.
And because of that sound, he's able to pick. And I wanted, in your full strength, to thank you for the leaders who you have raised, who have made an impact in the generations in different pockets, in different areas, whether that's in labor, whether that's in legal, whether that's in ministry. I want you to have a full bouquet of flowers to know that you have made a lot of people behind the scenes that folk don't know. You were helping to pull the strings, and so I'm just.
Well, a lot of people helped make me, and you owe because you received.
Yeah.
And I tried to do to others, and still try to do to others what was done for me from Adam Bob to Jesse to James Brown. But I must say again that out of all of, and I know the evangelism world better than most because I grew up a boy preacher on the road, Church of God in Christ. What you've been able to do in your ministry has been nothing short of miraculous. You're number one in your class.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I am so thankful. It feels like Christmas in the spring. The gift to our people and the gift to my life has been able to sit with us. I hope that you've been inspired, empowered, equipped, and encouraged. I need you to do me a favor. I want you to please like and subscribe to our YouTube page, the Jamal Bryant Podcast. Let's be clear.